Hey guys, quick update. As you know, we went to the track week before last, and we heard a rod bearing. Got 4 passes in, heard a rod bearing. So anyway, we're freshening up the 347 and going to the machine shop and showing everything to the machine shop. They said just go ahead and get a new crank because the Scat crank would have to be ground, and that would cost as much as getting a new crank. So we could still repair the crank, but I'm just going to hold on to it, or maybe, you know, I don't know. Maybe I'll fix it down the road or something. But we also took in the I took in the offending piston and rod, and it didn't spin the bearing. It just put some of the it got down to the copper and put some copper on the crank. So anyway, but it did discolor the rod a little bit. Didn't turn blue or anything, and it still had cross hatching in the big end of the rod. This cross hatching was still there from the last time it was resized. So he said it could definitely be fixed, but then looking at it, he noticed these the bushings are kind of beat up. They're a little too loose. So anyway, he said he can obviously fix all the rods, but it would be, $240 or something like that. So I probably will go ahead and have the rods repaired. So I got some backups, but I went ahead and bought a new set. And something we found out today when I took these in, here's what I got was the Summit brand. I decided to take a chance on the Summit branded connecting rods for 5.4 inch, 347. And the Summit has their own brand of cast crankshaft for a 302 3/4 inch stroke. And we took it in there. I showed it to him, and I figured, hey, if he says they're no good, we'll I'll just exchange them for the Scat ones. But the reason I took a chance on the rods was they came with a heavier rod bolt. The Scat ones come with a 3/8 ARP bolt, and the Summit ones come with a 7/16, so a heavier duty bolt. So I figured it was worth a shot, and they're $10 cheaper. And then the crank was $25 cheaper. Well, come to find out, get to the machine shop, and he's looked at those. He's all, oh no, those are Scat rods. They're a little heavier than these, but they also he said they're a good alternative to an H-beam. He builds superchargers and turbos and everything with those rods, so they're a stronger rod. He actually had a set of Scat branded rods exactly like those sitting in the box. We compared them side by side. The application was different, but the rods themselves were exactly the same, just the length was different because that one was for a big block Chevy. But nonetheless, I mean, the engraving, the way the numbers are laid out, everything exactly the same. So, and then we looked at the crank, and he said that's a Scat crank also, and it's just they ground off Scat on the crank and put it in a white box. But he said even the numbering and the lettering and everything is the same numbers and part numbers and everything that Scat uses. So he's very confident. He says he uses a lot of those rods. They're very good, and said he's very confident that those are going to work out. So that saved me a little money. And then on top of that, if you go to Summit's website, they are having 10% off of Summit products, and both of those products qualify. So I called Summit this morning, and they credited me back the 10% on those two items. So I think I saved like $18 on the rods, and I got back $14 on the crank. So hey, that'll help go towards the balancing. But nonetheless, I thought, Summit won't say who they get their white box stuff from, but I took them to the machine shop, and we compared them with other rods in the Scat box, and they're exactly the same. And he showed me on the crank. He said, look, here's where they ground off Scat on the crank. It's a Scat crank. He looked at it and immediately knew. So anyway, just want to let you guys know, maybe somebody can save some money if you're looking for some stroker parts, and take advantage of the 10% off sale. I would check it out. And again, those Summit ones come with heavier duty rod bolts. So thought I'd let you guys know that. Hopefully somebody can save a few bucks. I'm sure glad I did. And we will have this thing back up and running. It's probably going to be in the machine shop, getting balanced and resurface the flywheel, and balance that. And when I get that back, I got the block cleaned up. Put a fresh little hone on that, and got the heads cleaned up well enough. I didn't totally strip them down, but everything's been through the parts cleaner. So I will take the oil pump apart and clean the inside of the oil pump out. I haven't done that yet, but I did clean everything else out. So we'll do that. We'll have to take the pistons off the rods, but I'm going to do that one by one when the balance rods get here. So it'll just be easier to make sure the large make sure just they're installed on the piston in the correct way with the large chamfer facing the right way on the rods. It'll be easier to do that just leaving them like that. So anyway, that is the update, and then we'll have some EFI parts for sale since we're carb swapping. So I'll be posting that stuff up probably on Corral, Systemax, Trick Flow Box R. I got some the 80-pound injectors and a quarter horse, all that kind of stuff. I got 2 computers. I got an A9L and I've got a C3W for mass air. So I'll be posting some of that stuff up on Corral if anybody's looking for anything like that. So, but anyway, hope somebody can take advantage with the 10% off sale, and to know that the Summit white box stuff, at least the crank and the rods that I got are Scat, confirmed by my machinist. All right, guys. Thanks a lot. Have a good night.